One superhero that has always held a special place in my heart is Spider-Man. Yet for the longest time, I always felt like the character has been caught between too many places. Both Spider-Verse films are incredible, but each live-action Spider-Man movie still feels like it has one element that holds it back. It has many good to great movies, and of course a couple of duds. But while other live-action heroes have gotten their definitive movie, I've never fully felt that way about a Peter Parker film. To me, this was a part of the promise for Spider-Man Brand New Day. A return to form for MCU Peter Parker, this time on his own as Spider-Man after the events of his last film, Spider-Man No Way Home. The film being talked about as a street-level story, more focused on drama than humor, and driving home the aspects fans most wanted to see on the big screen. But then casting confirmations of Punisher and Hulk started to remind me not to get my hopes up, as the added superheroes were always my least favorite aspect of his previous films. But glowing reviews, not just from critics, but passionate Spider-Man fans like me, had me anxious to finally see the film for myself. Now, recording this review, I've seen Brand New Day twice. Alright, so you're getting a professional here, and I'm very glad that I did. Not only because the movie is good, but also because a rewatch gave me a little more appreciation for the film and its decisions. Is it the definitive Spider-Man movie? Not really, not to me at least, but it does just barely squeak ahead of its better films, providing the MCU with its best Spider-Man movie so far. Street level this, street level that was all over the interviews for this movie. I think that can be a little misleading. The threat of the film itself isn't street level, but it does provide Peter with a more intimate threat, physically and personally. The street level talk to me was more focused on the actions and characterization of the film. It's the first MCU film to have Spider-Man really be Spider-Man in New York City. It's him swinging around skyscrapers and some of the best swinging sequences in Spider-Man history. And it's the small details of Peter thanking the firefighters or double checking if others are okay that really connects him back to the core principles of the character. The characterization of live-action Spider-Man hasn't been this good for an entire film in many years. While some really amazing character moments would happen here and there between his films, this one feels true to the character the whole way through. The balance of being Peter and Spider-Man are Spidey 101, and I like the angle this film tackled. While most stories feature him wanting his normal life, I like the change of direction by having Peter fear normal life and instead pursue Spider-Man too intensely. The emotions and themes of this film really come together from both writing and performances. This is easily Tom Holland's best performance that I've seen in a film, and he was just great in The Odyssey. His slower, intimate conversations in the film really worked for me. As much as I love the MCU, sometimes I do feel like the movies tend to forget moments like this, and I want them to just slow down and breathe. The movie tackles a lot of themes, and while I do think it might have been better to tackle one and just really fine-tune it, I like the way characters have parallel or mirrored lifestyles. That's why I think Hulk and Punisher worked well in the film. Both echo something important to Peter's life at the moment, and it's something I really came to appreciate on a rewatch. Jon Bernthal's Punisher is a total scene stealer, and has given me the biggest boost in reason to finally sit down and watch his show. Other supporting cast members like Zendaya and Jacob Batalon really came into their own in this film as well, providing some of their best work in the MCU. Visually, the film is a nice step up for the MCU. It's not totally averse from some spotty visual effects and green screens, but some of the MCU has looked truly terrible lately, so I can't complain too much. But this nice step up is from Destin Daniel Cretton, the director. Everything that really works about this movie, outside of the script, I feel like we could really owe to him. The camera work in this film is up there as some of the best the genre has ever seen. Both the swinging and combat scenes are so visually fun and interesting, and the hand-to-hand fight scenes are ridiculously good. There really only are a few fights in the film, yet you never feel like the film drags, and each fight is so fantastic that you never feel like you were shortchanged in the long run. Other small directing choices go a long way. The set design of different locations like Peter or Frank's apartment make them feel really lived in. The ways Cretton can block a scene to show vulnerability or strength. Even something as small as the visually distinct way that the villain jumps from person to person is just another smart call by the production team. Not to harp too much on John Watts or those films, but the step up in production quality and visual style is incredibly noticeable. Spider-Man once again feels tangible in scenes, and is allowed to have unique fight moves and swinging. There's no real way to segue this into the review naturally, but holy moly, this film has atrocious product placement. Like gigantic take me out of the movie product placement. It's a criticism, obviously, but it doesn't hurt the movie all that much. For me though, something does hurt the movie a good bit, but to get into that, we have to talk spoilers. Alright, there's a time code on screen now, so skip ahead to see my final thoughts to avoid spoilers. So, surprise surprise, Sadie Sink, the villain of the movie, is Jean Grey, and I have lots of thoughts. I think pretty easily this is the worst part of the movie for me, for a few factors. I think to start things off, I just don't like this interpretation of Jean Grey. I think there's no denying how talented of an actress Sadie Sink is, but to me, it feels like they just told her to play Max from Stranger Things again. She is sort of a punk bad kid energy, and is written almost identically to Max as well. To me, Jean is a bit more serious, but even then, this change could work, just not in the context of this film. Because what Jean does in this movie with her evil kid energy is some of the most malicious and mean-spirited things a villain has done in the MCU. She's also a villain I'm supposed to feel sorry for at the end. Not only is she willingly mind-controlling and harming the people she possesses, but she's also using the bodies to mess with Peter in such an awful fashion. Her possessing MJ, then manipulating Peter, and then making them kiss is so crazy. It also doesn't really move the plot forward all that much, besides to tell Peter that he's outmatched, which doesn't really stop him anyways. I understand the pain and trauma she goes through, but she's actively harming innocent people, especially when I think she could pretty easily break into the vault she wanted to the whole time. Why not possess someone and then have them put in the key code? You're clearly keeping their memories once you jump into them. Why actively mess with a superhero without also telling them that this company took your sister? I just felt like her plan served the movie more than it did the story. Then, once things start to become revealed at the end, we spend like 10 minutes with Jean and no Spider-Man. It started to feel much more like a backdoor X-Men setup movie than a Spider-Man one. To me, that's also really disappointing. There's so many incredible elements here in the narrative that I think you could easily rework this story with a Spider-Man villain like Mr. Negative, rather than do a weird, evil version of Jean Grey that doesn't feel justified, just so you can set her up for the MCU future. All that said, I did really love the way the conflict was resolved at the very end, both with her finally entering Spider-Man's mind, and them talking about what their powers do to their personal lives, so I can sort of see why they chose her to move Peter's story to its ultimate conclusion, but I still didn't love everything else. While some might say redeeming her is for future movies, I still disagree in some ways. I think that if you change the name of this character and keep everything else the same, she would have been locked up in prison for the villainous things she did in this film. Just because we feel bad for her doesn't mean that what she did was justified. Now just to reiterate, that's my only real complaint. I still really enjoy so much more of the movie, but it is the one thing holding it back from being up there with the greatest superhero films to me. Spider-Man Brand New Day took what I thought would be way too many differing ideas and put them into one jam-packed movie, and I have to say, I still left the theater both times very happy. It provides this version of Peter with his most emotional journey yet, and finally gave him the New York City story he needed. While I wouldn't say it's the best live-action Spider-Man movie because of its villain, it still joins his other outings in that good to great range. So with all that, I still think that Spider-Man Brand New Day is worth seeing.